Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Talking Ballax podcast. I'm Jack, once again, joined by Euan. How are we doing?
Hello, mate. I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, well, you don't want to know, mate. You don't want to know, really.
Should have left it.
But yeah, today we're joined by two special guests, both making their debuts on the podcast. I know Blakey was on my old version of the podcast in Goal in One, but it's his debut on Talking Ballax. We got Leeds fan Blakey. Jack, how are we?
I'm good, mate. Good, mate. Pleasure to join. How are we all doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yeah. And guest from LFC Day Trippers podcast. Me and Euan have been on his show, their show numerous times. We're finally joined by Kev. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Better than I would have been in February, let's put it that way.
Definitely. But Kev's been on the end of a few pelters in our group chat after his comments on the Leicester game. Lawrence and myself, to be fair, were a bit unhappy, but we'll dissect that when we talk about the games and stuff. But yeah, pleasure to have you though, boys. But as it's our first kind of big collaborative sort of piece that we've done in a while, obviously we had James on over Christmas, the Forest fan. I decided that I was going to do a little bit of an introductory piece because Euan and I were on the phone about 2 weeks ago or so, and I made a passing comment about a football player's likeness to somebody else, and we both very much enjoyed that. So I asked all three of the guys, so I asked Euan, Kev, and Jack, all to put forward their best football player lookalike, not of them, but just somebody who looks like somebody else. We could have got really offensive if we'd gone for each other's own actual player lookalikes, to be fair, if we'd gone down that rabbit hole. So I'm going to share my screen, and I apologize that this is not going to be the best quality because I've managed to put them all onto a PowerPoint because, I'm really, really good with this technical stuff. So the first one I'll confess is mine, and this is the one that I thought was hilarious. So anyone who's seen Football Factory will know that the person on the left is Billy Bright, okay? And the actor I don't know the actor's name, so I apologize for that, but he was also the dad in Bend It Like Beckham, and he's probably been in other things as well, but that's what he's most famous for. And I said that his best football lookalike was Gary Taylor Fletcher, and I don't know who I'm insulting more, but that is definitely a really good photo of Gary Taylor Fletcher to show how accurate that comparison actually is. And also makes us all think that we've all got a chance of making it as a professional footballer when you look at Gary Taylor Fletcher like that. He looks like your dad on the beach after he's had a few too many, doesn't he? But
got a nice sweat on as well, hasn't he?
Oh, he definitely has. I reckon that's an early season summer game. I think we played away at Chelsea, and after that, we played away at Chelsea and he came on. I don't think after that he kicked a ball, so it could be around that time. The next one on my list is I believe Blakey's. I can't quite see because I had to shrink them down. And it's quite incredible. I'm very impressed by this one. And we all know Jota that plays for Celtic, I believe.
Yes.
So Jota, apparently, according to Blakey, and I'm inclined to agree with him, resembles a young George Michael.
Oh my God.
But do you know what I noticed when trying to find? It's incredible. It's an incredible lock, to be fair.
The brows.
Yeah. But the thing that I noticed the most when I was trying to find a decent picture of Jota was that the more he's let his hair grow, he's starting to look more like Billy Ray Cyrus now, more than George Michael. So if he keeps letting his hair grow, we'll get to that. And the
Shout
next
out
one,
Celtic, by the way.
Yeah. I love that's a really smart jumper. I'm a big fan of that jumper that he's wearing.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and George Michael's earring as well. Sure, why not? The next one is Kev's, and this one is pretty accurate, to be fair. So we've got Galactico David Beckham and Kurt Cobain.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty. You wouldn't catch David Beckham wearing a cardigan like that, though. I don't think. But you might actually.
I don't know. Have you seen his outfit?
He probably could.
What's the name of that thing? What's the name of that like bandana thing that he wore when he was with that? There's that really famous photo of him with Victoria when he's
the
wearing
do-rag.
Oh. Yeah, he's wearing the do-rag, isn't he? With like the vest shirt on. It's ridiculous. The early noughties were a different time for fashion, weren't they? Oh my word.
Most definitely. I mean, in fairness, I think when it comes to hairstyles, David Beckham literally went through the whole set. You've got the Real Madrid version. You had the bald version when he was at Manchester United. You had the cornrows when he went to Italy, I think.
No, I think that was when
maybe
he was in
PSG.
Spain again. I think that's when he was in Spain again. I think
Mohican.
What was the one where he had the mohawk? Was that?
that's
'Cause I know-
2002-ish, isn't it? Because he was bald.
Mm.
When we qualified, he was skinhead, wasn't he? And then by the World Cup, he had the mohawk, didn't he?
Yeah, because Sven was not happy bunny, was he?
No. But
I think Fergie wasn't happy.
He
either.
can't give
No.
anyone advice on hair, by the way. Sven Goran Eriksson.
no, the biggest forehead I've ever seen in my life. And I know he was receding, bless him, but it didn't help. The shape of his head didn't help, did it? But how he pulled Ulrika Johnson is beyond me. But the next one,
There's
the
some
last
stories about that. Apparently, he was an absolute demon.
one. I've never heard Sven Goran Eriksson described as a demon before. Oh,
Honestly, I listened to a podcast the other day, Under the Cosh, I think it was, and someone mentioned him and said, honestly, he was brilliant, but they couldn't say too much. So,
right, I just need to do this. I need to do this just for my own peace of mind. And I know this is a little bit mean because we're doing different lookalikes, but Euan, I have to just ask, and anybody listening on Spotify is not going to see appreciate. How can you call that man a demon? Look at him.
well, it was.
Look at that. How can you describe that man as a demon? Look at him.
I'm not being funny. It must just be something to do with that nice little M he's got on his head. I don't know.
Do you reckon he had a sponsorship deal with McDonald's for the Golden Arches there? Oh, dear,
He had something going for him, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's best
I
left
don't want to speculate what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, he probably is. He probably is one of the most famous exports from Sweden, I'd say. Probably closely behind ABBA, I suppose, as England manager. It lifts you up the pecking order a bit. The final one we have, again, is quite a nice one, but it's Francesco Totti and Bear Grylls. Pretty good.
That's close.
Yeah, I'd say that's
close.
That's a pretty... Have you ever seen those two in the same room together? That's the question.
No.
You probably won't.
I would-
I imagine they travel in different circles.
Totti's not been on the island yet.
But yeah, no, quality player, really gets overlooked an awful lot. But one club legend, absolute top talent.
It's because he never made the move, isn't it? It's just it feels like he that's held against him almost unintentionally, but it is.
Yeah.
He's like the Italian Harry Kane, but with trophies.
This is it. He's not going to be a quiz question later in life. He can actually talk about what he won.
I got a really good question actually for you two, and I asked this to everybody, and nobody seems to know it. And I imagine actually some of the people in here probably will. But I've asked this question loads of times, just on topic of quiz questions. Who's the only Italian to ever win the Premier League for actual player?
Italian player to win the Premier League.
The only Italian player to win the Premier League.
I think.
I'll come to you in a second, and if you think you know, we'll see if the other.
Yeah, I won't say anything.
I'll give you a clue for the two who are struggling.
Go on.
He only got one assist, and it was
a famous one.
It was probably the most famous assist, not for the quality of the assist, but the moment, the goal. It was possibly the most famous assist in Premier League history.
Why always me?
It was
Mr. Mario Balotelli.
Oh,
yeah, the only Italian player to win the Premier League. Got one assist. And
it was the clue that gave it to me, to be fair. It was the clue that gave it to me. Because I would have leaned towards Vialli or Zola, but...
Yeah, I thought Zola.
It could change this season if Arsenal win the league and Jorginho claims it. That could change. But we'll see. Anyway, we'll dive into what we're going to talk about today. I'll get rid of Bear and Francesco off the screen. Just for now. Right. So... obviously, the fixtures from this week didn't go particularly favourably for three of us. Kev's Liverpool are 6 on the bounce, so we'll start with the positive. I mean, why not? We're usually quite negative on here because obviously this season we've been toilet. So we'll start with the positive. Kev, six in a row, playing some really, really good attacking football. Is it on? Are you going to leapfrog United or Newcastle or both?
It's out of our hands. At the end of the day, if they do their job properly, then there's nothing we can do. The best we can get to is 71 points. I think the ones we're probably... Well, look, at the end of the day, at this time of the season, you are going to get crazy results. We saw it yesterday with Everton. Nobody saw that coming. Absolutely nobody. And anyone who says they did is like, just go and get some fairy liquid and put it in your mouth and wash it out because you're lying. But I look at the fixtures. Manchester United have 2 home fixtures. They're good at home, but they're leggy after about an hour. They've played an awful lot of football this season, and that squad is fairly thin. The injuries, that the players that they're missing at the back are crippling them. De Gea's always got a rick in him. So I wouldn't. I think with Manchester United, if you can stay in the game for an hour, you've got a decent chance. And I don't care who it is they play. Newcastle should be fine. Even in the loss to Arsenal, they created enough chances in that game that against other sides, they'll score. They'll be fine.
I've noticed that Newcastle, like me and Euan were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Whenever they've lost, they've responded. They've gone and won the next game or got a big result in the next game, I don't think that's going to change now. Because them losing to Arsenal, even though it was a big game, they were almost still expected to lose to Arsenal, I think. Like, because Arsenal are, no offense to you, a better team at the moment than Newcastle.
No, there's no denying that.
Yeah. I think, but they will respond. They will respond. So.
Yeah, and the other side of it is you got to look at it as well. Look, I think Newcastle have to play Brighton, and do they have to play Chelsea as well?
Yeah, away from home on the last day.
Yeah, it's not Chelsea of old. It's a Chelsea trying to find itself. Brighton, after yesterday, God knows what their head's going to be like. You'd hope for my sake anyway that their head is in a better spot than it was yesterday, because yesterday they played like they were entitled. And that's never a good sign for any club. But for myself, from my own point of view, I mean, no offense to Blakey, but bar the Leeds game, we've had to work really hard in every game to get a win. And that's not...
You won't on Monday, Kev, don't you worry. You won't have to work hard on Monday again.
Well, the thing is, most sides... Brentford were really tough to handle, but it was the one thing I didn't think Alisson had to do much in the game. No. And that was the one thing I was worried about going into the game with their set piece delivery, with how they can counter and how they attack sides, is that they can get in behind you and cause you a problem. With the way that Trent is playing now, almost coming into midfield, you can't be in 2 places at once. So it's given an awful lot of work to Ibrahim Konate to cover that space. So I was a bit worried going into the game that they will get chances, but I thought that was probably our best defensive display in a long time. They didn't really get much chances, and the chances that they did get were really scuttery half chances.
Yeah,
I was happy. I was happy with the 3 points, and at this stage of the season, that's all I care about. Performances I'll worry about in pre-season. All I care about is points.
Yeah,
if we can get the 71 points, then we have a sniff. But it's still, I still go back to it. For me, the Bournemouth game crippled us. That was going away to Bournemouth crippled any. I think that done us. If we were ahead, even if Manchester United had a game in hand, if we were 2 points ahead of them, then I'd fancy it, because I don't think they've got the bottle, to be honest. Yeah. I think they will. I think they have it in them to bottle it. But
what are you thinking with Trent in midfield, Kev? Do you think that's his long-term position now? Because I know we haven't spoken since obviously he's taken up that role. Would you potentially make him an option there, or would you keep him at right back and look to invest in the midfield and then maybe buy a backup right back like a Livramento, let's say, who I heard mentioned last night?
Yeah, no, I like the fact that he's supplementing the midfield and adding a number into the midfield rather than, I like the fact that when we're defending in shape of 4-4-1-1 or 4-4-2 in our normal defensive shape, everyone knows where they're supposed to be, and you can work with that an awful lot easier. And when we're on the ball, Robertson tucks back in. He doesn't make the bombing on runs as much as what he used to. At the end of the day, he's 29 and he's got an awful lot of mileage in his legs as it is. So it protects him a little bit. Having the extra person into midfield that's trained with his passing range and his vision, then next to Fabinho, who's closer, if you lose the ball higher up the pitch, you have that extra person there to really press high and try to win the ball higher up the pitch. So I think it's a trade-off at the minute, but the problem is for us, the system at the moment is very Trent-specific. It only works with him in the side. I can't imagine it working with any of the other right-backs. I can't imagine James Milner playing at right-back and drifting into midfield. I don't think that works. But for a team with Trent in it, I think for us it works well. I think going forward for England, it's definitely something to explore. The fact that you can get him into midfield. I was worried about him having the 360 vision, having played at right back for so long, and the game is all outside of you when you're playing at right back. But in midfield, it's all around you.
Yeah,
I was worried about him handling that pressure.
Mm.
Yeah, but he has that in space. He's really, really good in the role. And if he's your second six.
Sorry, Kev, go on. Carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're England and he's your second number 6 next to, say, Declan Rice, and it allows Jude Bellingham to have that free role, and you could have a Reece James, a Kyle Walker, anyone behind him, it gives you an option. It doesn't mean it has to work all the time, but it's an extra option that England don't have, and England don't have anyone with his passing range.
No, I think that's the thing. That's the thing that's never been in doubt about Trent, though. Is like his ability and his forward thinking, like attacking play, and his vision and like his passing range. That's nobody's ever questioned how good Trent was about that. It was always about his defensive positioning. I mean, the argument that a lot of people put forward was like Vinicius was his man in the Champions League final, and it looked like he had no idea where he was. But then you put him into midfield, he was always, whether he was going to be a fantastic midfielder was maybe a question, but I don't think anybody doubted that he could do a job there. But he's been fantastic in the last couple of games, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the players that he's finding. There's goals there and assists for Darwin Núñez that he picks out with inch perfect precision. And
unbelievable.
If you put Gakpo in that role as well, Gakpo can make that run from deeper, and you have Jota or Luis Diaz coming in off the left to pick up that ball. And plus, it also helps Fabinho. Fabinho and Henderson can't cover the ground that they used to cover 3 years ago. You know, so at the end of the day, Trent was able to be that bombing on fullback when Jordan Henderson was 27, 28 and had lungs to go forever and a day. But Jordan Henderson is now 32, Fabinho's 30. And at the end of the day, Father Time is undefeated. You can't do what you used to do. Trust me, you can't do what you used to do when you were younger. So
Luka Modric argues against that, doesn't he?
Luka Modric will now. Yeah, I know. Luka Modric is one of those freaks of nature. He's like, in fairness, Spurs have it with Perisic. Technically brilliant footballers, but even Luka Modric now is being subbed on off at 70 minutes. Yeah. You know, he can do a job for an hour, and then he starts to fade. Yeah. It's an area in the summer that we're losing 4 players in the summer, and our problem, and Euan might have the same problem come the summertime, is the quotas for European football. Dean, you're allowed to register 17 non-homegrown players. And of the homegrown players that you do register, 4 of them have to be over 21 and club grown. Yeah. So at the moment, we're losing Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Bobby Firmino, James Milner, which means in the summertime, we're going to have to sign at least 2 homegrown players.
The other thing with that, Kev, just to mention is, if clubs don't adhere to that, they lose a squad space, don't they?
They lose a squad place, but the squad place that they lose is a non-homegrown player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like they lose a homegrown player.
Yeah, we went into the Champions League this season with 1 player less because we didn't have the numbers. I mean, the thing is, you can register, you can play as many under 21s as you like. You know, for us, we were able to play Harvey Elliott, so it didn't matter whether someone was registered or not. Harvey was playing anyway. We could play Carvalho if we wanted to, because even though he was under 21, he could still play. But at the same time, to get your numbers right and to have the full squad available to you, especially in a season where last season just gone with the World Cup thrown in, the condensed nature of the fixtures, when you're talking about an extra 6 fixtures of European football on top of chasing a Man City who were likely to be pushing 90-plus points, you have to be able to have a squad that's deep enough. Yeah. So losing the 4 that we're going to lose, we have to bring in a minimum of 4 people just to, stand still. And the hope is that the 4 that we bring in are going to be 1, available, and 2, of a standard that can push us back into 4 contention. Because at the end of the day, when you have Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, you're 2 down straight away. Arthur Melo, 3 down straight away. Bobby Firmino in and out with injury. And then you couple that with losing Diogo Jota and was Darwin Núñez for a long period of time. Luis Diaz for a long period of time. The bones of 4 months, it really limits your options, especially with the volume of games that plays. So, this summer for us is huge. If we're going to have any chance of getting back to somewhere where we need to be competing, it's massive, and it needs real investment.
Yeah, well, excellent summary as always, Kev. Quick fire answer. I'll talk about it from like last season compared to, or maybe earlier on in the season. If you do manage to finish 5th, do you think that's a good season all in, or?
No, it's a bad season, but at the same time, it's a bad season with a strong run in to bounce into next season. If we can go into next season on the back of 9 wins,
it's huge.
And I'll take that. At the end of the day, we were languishing around mid-table, and we couldn't play football. We'd forgotten how to play football. We were a shadow of what we used to look like, and we had no identity. We'd lost our identity, and it was almost like muscle memory, where the mind knew what it needed to do, but the body wouldn't let it do it. Now we've had to change. We had no choice but to change. And if that change added with investment, taken with confidence of potentially 9 wins to bounce into next season, I'll take that from where we were. And if it's European, if it's Europa League, fine. Europa League finals in Dublin. Not a bother to me, like.
I mean, you're speaking to somebody whose team famously won 7 from the last 9 and went on to win the league. So, that end to the season bounce is massive. But that kind of brings me on to my next point, which is going straight to Euan, is that with Liverpool on that run, United being United, I mean that mentality is still there, even if it's been fragile in recent years. Are you starting to feel the pinch, feel the sweat a little bit, Euan, or are you still confident that you'll at least finish 4th?
I am. I don't think Eddie Howe is. I think that's probably where I'm at. I'm still in the belief that Newcastle are Newcastle, and we haven't really ever got over this hurdle of not quite fulfilling our potential. Even when we finished 5th, we dropped straight back down the league. Things like that. It's just frustrating as a Newcastle fan, but I do get the impression that when we play now, there's an inherent belief within those lads that they can get a result no matter who they play against, even against Arsenal, like Kev said just then. I know Arsenal probably shaded it, and I don't mean that in like we were unlucky, but we could have had a penalty another day. We could have, we hit the post twice, but then they had a lot of shots that Pope made really good saves for. So, it could have panned out very, very differently. But given that Arsenal are challenging for the title, and we've obviously, I know, like other teams have played more games, but given the squad we've got 4 midfielders. We haven't got any more midfield. We've got 4 midfielders, and Sean Longstaff's out at the minute. We're playing with the same midfield with that intensity all the time. I am so proud of them. I just think it's maybe me, because I've got friends like Carl, who I've mentioned before, who is pretty confident now that it is going to be 4th probably. We're probably going to look at 4th. The thing that's really beneficial for us is even when we're not winning games, Man United aren't either. So obviously they've lost 2 on the bounce now, and they're now below us, and the games are running out. I'm not saying we're going to necessarily...
They've still got 2 in hand, haven't they? I think United only 1 in hand now.
So they've got the same as us and 1
1 in hand on Liverpool.
So us and Man United have got 1 in hand on Liverpool.
Right.
But given that Man United have lost their 2 centre-halves, De Gea, like Kev said, is always liable to throw one in. Whether that be a dodgy pass, a stray pass, whether it be not claiming a cross very convincingly. I do feel like the pressure's probably on them because Liverpool are their rivals. And it would be an absolute disaster if we didn't get top 4 given the position we're in. But we're not expected to finish top 4. We never have been. If you told me 5th or 6th at the start of the season, I'd have snapped your hand off given we've been to Wembley. I've never been to Wembley in my life. But in this season, we could finish in Europe and I've been to Wembley and I've experienced those moments. So, it would be a real disappointment. But I think Eddie Howe is going to turn up to Elland Road on Saturday with a plan, with an idea of how he's going to go out the game, how he's going to manage that game. He's not going to be making any rash decisions. And then we've got Brighton at home. I'd much rather be playing them at home than away from home, because St James's, as we all know, is probably one of the most difficult places to go to in the world at the minute when the fans are up for it. And then we've got you on the Monday night, Jack, who at the minute you can...
No, the gift that keeps on giving. That's what we are, mate.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that these are guaranteed wins, because if anything, I'm probably glass half full. But on reflection, everyone who looks outside in seems to tell me that we are in a very good position. We've lost, I think it's 4 games all season in the league. You'd like to think that we're not all of a sudden going to lose like half that amount in 4 games.
Well, yeah, you've got the third best goal difference in the league. 29 goals conceded all season, lost 5.
Yeah, 5 it is. Yeah, because of Arsenal. Yeah, of course, with Arsenal beating us. So I'd like to think that we're going to pick up those points. We only need 7 to guarantee it now. So that's 2 wins and a draw. We're playing Chelsea on the last day. That could be a huge game. But I also think that Manchester United have got real pressure on their shoulders, because everyone and this is not me, it feels sometimes like I'm hammering Man United and I'm just almost taking a swipe at them. But Rashford hasn't hit form for a while now. He had that good period, but he's gone flat again. This is what he does. He's always done it. Ten Hag supposedly wants to play this possession-based football. They get the ball to Bruno and Eriksen. They whip one around the corner and Rashford. As soon as teams click onto that, they don't have that cutting edge. They've missed Garnacho, that rawness, that bravery on the ball. I don't feel like they've got that cutting edge that the teams around them necessarily have. They've been very reliant on Lisandro Martinez building the attacks from the back. He can penetrate so well. When he's not there, they look a little bit void of ideas. I'm not so sure they're as strong as what their fans have maybe thought they were all season. They were talking about a treble at one point. I'm still not convinced that they're definitely going to get top 4, and they're playing Manchester City in the final. They could end up with 5th. And yes, a cup win is progress. But given the way they've spoken about themselves all season, I wouldn't say that was a particularly good season. So I'm looking for them to improve if they want to outdo Liverpool, because whatever you think of Liverpool, like Kev said, like performance-wise, they are grinding out results. They are scoring goals when it matters. They're keeping teams out more than they have done for the best part of the season. So it's tight, but like Kev said, it's in our hands. We just need to make sure that we go into games with the same attitude we've had all season, and make sure that we're actually using the players we've got to the best of their ability, because I still can't believe Callum Wilson started at the weekend. He was literally invisible. Whereas he
did seem very ineffective, like from the bits that
he is, though. This is him. He's got a real confidence, and you'd almost say arrogance. And I think as a number 9, you need that. But I am a firm believer that Callum Wilson is a striker to play against the bottom 12 teams in the league. Alexander Isak is a player you want playing against the very best teams, because he's got that ability to pick the ball up, as you've seen, on the halfway line and beat 3 men and create something. Callum Wilson needs the ball in between the sticks in front of the penalty spot. And if you're playing against a team like Arsenal, it's hard to get the ball for long periods. You've got to offer something else. He wasn't running the channels. He wasn't holding the ball well. He wasn't pressing well. We have to make sure we're using the right players in the right circumstances. If we're going to dominate the ball, Callum Wilson all day. Look to accommodate Isaac as well. But I would never be starting Callum Wilson against Arsenal. It's just my opinion. I think Eddie Howe messed up there. But he's not done that very often this season, and there's been times when he's made change and you think, wow, what a decision. Bring Wilson in against West Ham, gets 2. Brings him on at half-time against Southampton, gets 2. Win the game. I can't criticise too much, but I do think there has to be that consideration moving forward with the games we've got left.
I think first 15, 20 minutes as well. If you'd have gone 1-0 up before that Odegaard strike, it probably ends up being a different game, because that kind of mentality shift for Arsenal, them taking the lead, I think was huge for them in the end. But
it got them over that hurdle of us stopping them finishing 4th last season, didn't it? It kind of put that to bed. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, but right, what we'll do now, okay, is because I feel like it's been a very top heavy thing. So Blakey, I'll come to you first, but I'm just going to quickly share my screen again. So this is how the table looks right now. Okay, this is how the top sort of 4, 5, 6 looks right now. Okay, so we've got City top on 82, played 34, Arsenal second, 81, played 35, Newcastle 65, United 63, Liverpool 62, Spurs 57, Brighton 55 with 2 games in hand. That's quite important for Brighton, unless they have that complacency, like Kev said earlier, which is absolutely potentially true. Blakey, I'll come to you first because, I'll start with the outsider looking in. No offense. But how do you, as quick as we can, nice and quick fire, how do you think we'll go down to 6th place? How do you think it finishes? How do you think the European spots finish? In what order?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a difficult one because I feel like obviously Manchester United for a while it was like, the solid top 4, you wouldn't doubt it, but now it seems they're sort of limping the way over the line. Like I live with a Man United fan now, and they're a bit frustrated. I think the obviously the stuff like the Brighton last minute really doesn't help them.
Yeah, Luke Shaw decides to play volleyball at the last minute of the game. I don't know why he's done that. But anyway, carry on. Sorry, mate.
Oh, that's it. No, I was having a look at like the remaining fixtures, and obviously with Man United, you look at on paper, Wolves, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Fulham. It's probably the best time because at the end of the day, you've got Wolves, Bournemouth, and Fulham are all sort of on the beach, so to speak, and so are Chelsea really. And it depends on what Chelsea turns up. I think Chelsea have been pretty shocking recently, so the results there. I still feel like it'll be Man U and Newcastle taking the 3rd and 4th spot. I think obviously Liverpool have been up there. I think maybe it's just some of the fixtures that have gone against them this season are just a little bit too late, and they're going to miss out. Yeah, I think Brighton probably will just miss out as well, but at the same time, it's been a really good season for them. Yeah, I feel like with Newcastle as well, they're similar to Arsenal in the sense of they've probably overachieved this season. So like if Arsenal had just finished top 4 and solid, people will be giving them well done, really good. But now they've got close to the title. It looks like they're probably not going to do it. Now people are going to they balled it and this and that and the other, and it's different perspectives. Whereas same for Newcastle. If Newcastle, I don't know what you think, Euan, but if Newcastle had finished probably top 7, 8 this season, or pushing for that, maybe just like Conference League, Europa League, they would have been like, do you know what? That's a decent first season back.
Spot on, absolutely. Honest, I'd have taken top 10 at the very beginning, and then when you start hitting a bit of form, you think, well, how far can we go with this? Yeah, I agree with you completely.
It's like the 2 seasons we came 5th. If you'd have said you're going to finish 5th at the start of the season, you'd run for the hills with that. But it's how it happens, isn't it? Like people always say at the start of the season, you take this. Like Kev, for example, if I come to you, I ask you that question about Liverpool, like. At the start of the season, if I said you'll finish 5th after going for the quadruple, you'd be like, it's a joke. But actually, considering at one point in the season you were 9th, to get back to 5th, it's actually okay in the end, kind of, isn't it? It's
well, given that Chelsea haven't ever recovered, have they? So
no.
Liverpool have shown character and got themselves back and properly started grinding out wins. Chelsea can't buy a win when they play anyone above them.
Well, the last time Chelsea finished outside the top 7, next season they won the league at a canter. So there's always that, isn't there?
Well. And I'm going to go back to what Euan was saying. At the start of the season, the current top 5, I had 5 of them. And I had Newcastle finishing 4th. I had Arsenal finishing, at the very start of the season.
Everyone thought he'd had too many that evening. That's why they didn't take him seriously.
Well, look, that happens most nights, to be honest. But I think we had we'd done a show. We had a preview show for the season, and we had Kendall Rowan was on, the Newcastle fan. And I said on the night that Newcastle I thought would finish 4th, purely on the basis of it being such a condensed season and having no Europe to contend with. I knew they'd invested well. I knew Alexander Isak would hit the ground running. And I thought, okay, if they get a good run and keep key players fit, they'll be a tough side to beat. And so it's turned out for the season. I had Arsenal finishing 3rd because they had good investment again, really good investment, solid investment, really young side with none of the baggage. They didn't have any of the fear, and they had none of the agendas. Plus, Arteta put his foot down with Aubameyang by getting rid of that problem. Got Lacazette out of the club as well. He was started with a clean slate with a really young squad, and they were playing good football. Even when the end of last season, we went and beat them 2-0. They were really good. I had us finishing higher, obviously, but at the end of the day, no, I didn't see the fall off coming in the season that we had. As for this, how I think it finishes out, I think the top 2 are as is. I think Newcastle will finish 3rd. I'm hoping that it comes down to level points with Manchester United, and we beat them on goal difference, and that's 7.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at that goal difference.
Yeah,
It's taken a
goal
tonk.
The other thing with Manchester United is Marcus Rashford scored 16 goals this season. Okay, their next highest goal scorer is Bruno Fernandes with 6. Look at how many goals they score and how many they concede, and that was based on a side that was supposedly stronger at the back. Ten Hag has lost more games this season than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had, in the league.
Worth mentioning, Kev, as well. They had the best defense in the league when Maguire and was it Lindelof or Varane?
They had a better defense.
I can't remember which season it was, but they had a better defense, and arguably they've got better players now. And that's what I'm saying about Ten Hag.
That was Solskjaer's first season. I think they've got too many players in that side with baggage, and as long as we can do our part, I think we get 4th. But it's an awful lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. On paper, it should finish as is, but football ain't paid on paper, and there's still results. This season has been so topsy-turvy. There is shocks to come in this season, There is definitely shock results to come.
Kev?
Pardon?
You've got 9 available. You've got 9
I think we'll get 9.
Do you think
we'll get 9. Well, I think we have to get 9. I think if we don't get 9, forget about it. I think Brighton will finish above Spurs as well. I hope they do, because
haven't they got Arsenal, Man City, and us?
It was telling last night that Euan Ferguson was on the bench to come back, and he comes back into that side, Brighton side, and they're a different animal. They've got someone who can link the play and play off, and they have a young fella on the bench as well, Adam Moran, another Irish under-21 international. He's going to be a special player next season. He's one of those ones that Brighton have on the they're churning out another one. So when they let one go, they've got this kid coming through. He's one to look forward to. And I hope Brighton do, because I enjoy watching them. I enjoy watching them play. I like their style of football. I love watching Matoma play. I love that type of winger anyway. And to be honest, for the season the Spurs had under Conte, I hate that style of football. I look at that style of football that Spurs play under Conte, and it deserves absolutely no success. Play 5 at the back, 4 across the middle, 1 up top, sit in, try to hit sides in the counter, play for 45, stay in the game for 45 minutes, and then suddenly turn up and try and play football. That style of football deserves absolutely nothing in life, and I hope to God it never succeeds in anything. So for me, I hope to God that Spurs end up outside of the top 5.
Tell us how you really feel, Kevin.
Yeah,
Tell us how
I can't, because in fairness, it's not 10 o'clock. If it was 10 o'clock, I'd really let rip. And I've had Spurs fans on my show, and I tell them exactly the same. It's nothing personal.
I can delay it and release it after 10, Kev. Don't you worry.
It's just I look at how they set up with a back 5, and I love sides who play back 5s progressively with wing backs that really attack. And
like Chelsea and Tuchel were a good example of that.
Exactly. When they play with wing backs that bomb on, and you've got 3 forwards that tuck in, and you're making 5 forwards up front, and you're getting 2 midfielders to join in from the middle to make it an attacking 7, and it's attacking. It's enjoyable to watch when it's done well, but when it's done badly, and when you've got sides passing the buck and looking for someone else to do their job, it's the most depressing style of football to watch. And the fact that they're playing in such a fantastic stadium, paying top dollar to watch this side week in, week out, I understand where the frustration of the Spurs fans is coming from, because they're you went to Fulham yesterday. It's not cheap going to games in London. No. At the end of the day, it's the least the fans deserve is to be entertained and to see sides pushing and trying their nuts off for 95 minutes. And you're not getting that with Spurs.
There's least I know with Brighton, excuse for it.
No,
Brighton and Newcastle have got less resources and yet are playing better football. You're absolutely right.
But the one thing that I say with Liverpool when we won the league, okay, and it's a stick that a lot of those sides look to beat us with. We spent big on key players, but we kept our spending within limits that is achievable by most clubs. It's not that we had to invent sponsors or create finances that weren't there. The club is run in a way that it spends what it earns, and it's maintained that way. And if Liverpool could do that and compete with Man City and get 97 points and miss out by a point, Arsenal has proved this year that you can do the same. And the sides like Manchester United, Spurs, who have spent a ton of money trying to compete, they just bloody can't. And the reason they can't is in the dugout. They don't have a manager who's brave enough to attack games and risk losing to try to win. And at least with Brighton, I look at what De Zerbi has done at Brighton, and if Brighton can hold on to him this summer, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the top. Nobody's going to want to go there, And look, that's how I see it going. I'd love to see the top 6 with. I can't stand Man City, but Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Manchester United, Brighton, Spurs,
Leicester.
No, we're not talking about the championship yet.
No. It'll be next season. This time next year, we line up for the playoffs. Don't you worry. But on that excellent Kev rant, that kind of brings me on to the next part. So if you were tuning in for this podcast for positives and positive spins on football, then now is the time for you to tune out, because unfortunately we're going to drop to the bottom end of the table, where I feel like Blakey's probably a little bit more positive than me after the display at the Etihad, because I'm going to let loose with both barrels when it's my turn. I'm sorry to say it, chaps. If you want to just turn the volume down or whatever you can and just let me go onto an echo chamber, that's fine. But we'll start with Blakey, because I think I'll be perfectly honest. I watched the game. So my brother-in-law is a Leeds fan, and my family were down at the weekend. We had it on, and 2-1. To somebody who didn't watch the game would probably think, that's not bad, Big Sam's gone in there, clearly put up a fight. But first 80 minutes, it was, I think 2-1, you'd argue, flatters you a lot, Blakey. Am I right? Am I being harsh with that? Or would you say that's probably fair?
Nah, you're probably fair. I think it was one of those where we would, you could see the tactic from the off. It was just flat back 4, 5 in midfield, 3 of them tracking the runners in the middle, and then just Bamford, hopefully the out ball. And there was a couple of chances like in terms of where we did get out, and it was like, oh my gosh, we're in their half, we're in their half. But it wasn't. It was, it was 2 and 5 between. I mean, the goal at the end probably flatters it a bit more, makes it look closer. They missed some sitters. Haaland missed, obviously, a couple that were obvious. I think it must be because he's a Leeds boy. He didn't want to put us in the grave that much. But no,
he's very profligate for somebody who's so good. He is exceptionally profligate, isn't he? Like they were quite easy chances he missed on Saturday, weren't they?
Oh yeah. He expected him to bury him. It was just like I was reaching the stadium and thinking, how's that not gone in? But there's a few like that. I think their 2 goals. The most frustrating thing about it was they were 2 of the same. Really, it was just pass out to Mahrez out wide, does a little jink, and then Gundogan's on the near to the edge of the box, and he just does 2, one to the bottom left corner, 1 to the bottom right corner. Both great finishes. Keeper can't do anything. That's just more to tracking runners. And second half, I think we were just compact and kept it. Kind of attacks a little bit, but didn't do much. But obviously, with the goal, we had that chance and we took it. That was the most important thing, really.
It was a good finish, wasn't it? It was a very, very confident finish, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think although Bamford's hold-up play has been better in recent, I just think with Rodrigo being our top goal scorer, I just don't realise how we can't start him when we need goals at this point, to be honest. I think you do the defensive thing at one end, but we've got to get the attacking sorted as well, because at the end of the day, from the last few games, we need to win. I
think if I take Dean Smith's first game at Leicester as an example, like going to the Etihad, first game, 5th game, 20th game, at the moment, it is kind of a free hit, isn't it? Like, I don't think anyone really was expecting Big Sam to go there and get the result, but
not all. I think we've just taken. It was probably in terms of the last 4 fixtures. It's probably better that we played them then as opposed to the last game of the season, because at the end of the day, whether he's been in charge for 1 or 3 games, it's probably better we play him then. And then the fact that we kept the scoreline to only 2-1, and we had this, it's probably better that we scored the goal. In terms of if we were going to get 2-1, it's probably better that we scored the goal late and we had a little bit of a spell in the last 10. So then the players come out of it with a bit more confidence of, oh, well, listen, we can do this here. We'll just go into our next few games and try and take something into them.
We did something very similar. Like we were 3-0 down, and then second half we had some really good opportunities. Obviously, got it back to 3-1 and hit the post as well. I think maybe City let off the gas a little bit, but
yeah,
it really made a game of it. When you scored and then they looked quite shaky, I thought, do you know what? I thought you had a chance and maybe it might nick a point, but it wasn't to be, unfortunately, on the day, was it?
No, I think it is what it is. I think, everybody was looking at a free hit. I think just the quality of Man City tells at the end of the day. You know what I mean? We were sitting in compacts, but they were still fighting in spaces, and it's just the quality of some of the players. It is what it is at the end of the day. But
what did you make of? And I don't know if this was. I mean, maybe I missed this. I don't know if it was injury or suspension or whatever. But what did you make of Meslier being dropped for Robles?
I fully backed it, to be honest. I think Meslier, although he's had games where he's been really good at shot stopping, like Liverpool away was a prime example. I mean, that's the reason we got 3 points. So they're probably the worst, best result of the season due to other things. But in terms of everything else in recent games, obviously I know the defence in front of him has let him down big time, but there's been some saves where they should be doing better. I've never seen a keeper so tall have less of a physical presence in the box, really. Like the goal against why am I forgetting?
There's that many.
Exactly. That's
what
it.
Was it 23 conceded in April, wasn't it? Something stupid like that.
The record, exactly.
Do you know what I think's mad about Meslier is there's so many rumours about him going elsewhere. So there's rumours of Bayern Munich having a look and all these clubs having a look. And I just think his eye's been taken completely off the ball. No pun intended. But it genuinely feels like his head's elsewhere because he's got a lot of work to do to get himself back in that team because he hasn't deserved to be in the team.
That sounds very familiar, Euan. I wonder who's going to talk about that in about 5 more minutes. But no, it's true. Like Leeds have got some quality players, and I think maybe they are suffering the same fate as Leicester. As a lot of these players have had smoke blown up their arse, and their agents get in their ears and they look elsewhere, don't they?
I think
that's about Leeds. Tyler Adams is a huge miss.
Oh yeah, I know he's
that energy.
Yeah, 100%. He was just like just the energy in midfield of it was clear what he was there to do. It was go win those little scrappy battles.
Excuse my language, but he's a little shit.
Oh, what? Yeah. Oh,
you just don't like they kicked the ball away once. That was it. You just don't like they kicked the ball away.
Do you know what it is? Like I've got a lot of time for it because you do what you need to do to get results, and players like that. They get the fans up for it. They get the opponent's fans annoyed. You miss players like that little bit of bite, that little bit of tenacity. Yeah, you need it. There's times you need it. We've got Joe Linton. Joe Linton does the same thing. I cannot complain. He's a little shit, but in a good way.
Especially a lot where we are and stuff like a point away at St James's Park, you'd have taken that all day. And 100%. It's just. And I think, obviously, we're missing him big time. And I think that one of the big things is, and I think it would probably be the same for you, Jack, is players when you're down this end of the table, obviously, some players, their heads, you just see their head drop. And the effort's just not there. And that's just the biggest frustration because it's just the lack of grit and the lack of fight. And you just think, what's going on? Because it's just a mix of when I look at our team, especially because I was there. Listen, I went to 2 games recently, Palace at home and Liverpool at home, and I watched and see 11 goals.
Stop going.
And it was just
stop going.
Literally that.
You're a jinx.
And it was just, I know that's the thing, but no, and it's just you just saw the change there, and just some players just heads dropping, just kind of going through the motions, and it's just there's no one really to take hold of the game because I look at some of our team then, and it's a case of either half of them don't really care, and the other half just aren't good enough.
How do you feel about Bamford?
Losing?
About
he
Bamford,
must be one of the most frustrating players ever because I swear he misses 99% of his chances.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like we had even in the Championship when we went up the season. Obviously, we were under Bielsa. We were a very possession-based team and creating a lot of chances, and he missed a lot of them. He had good goal tallies, but arguably could have had a lot more. But ultimately, we got up, and the first season in the Premier did really well, finishing some chances. You know, I mean, that's got him the England call up, but injuries hampered him last season and a little bit this season, so to speak. But yeah, he's just not. It was a whole thing of, if he gets a goal, he might hit form again, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. We're just not seeing it at the moment. And the hold-up play has been good from him in some ways, a bit hit and miss against Man City. But I think the problem is the hold-up play can only get you so far. And if you're not getting the goals, you're not getting the goals. And Rodrigo's been able to pick up the slack this season. I can't remember who he's on at the moment. Tally-wise, he might be on 12 or 13, which is good. I think he's probably in like the top eight for the league, and that's impressive for a side that's down the bottom end. But then at the same time, there's not really been anyone else to contribute apart from Sinister has been bright, but he's had injury issues as well. Nonto,
you're right.
Nonto's been on a lot of. There's been a lot of pressure put on his shoulders, and he's kind of faded under. There's a bit of thing under Gracia that he wasn't featuring. It was a bit like, well, why is he not featuring? He's one of our best players, and also the bargain signings. But yeah, a whole load of stuff that could be said for this season, to be honest.
Are you staying up, do you think?
I don't think so. No, my gut instinct before the weekend was no, and I think obviously I just had in the back of my mind that Everton were going to make it out. Leicester have surprised me a lot. Obviously, I know I wasn't watching them to the same level as you were, Jack, but I thought Leicester would surely get out of it looking at their team on paper instead of the talent. And then I thought Forest would get out of it as well. I thought Forest showed they got a bit of that spirit about them, and you see that grit. And that's the problem is when you don't see the grit, that's when it really falls apart. Because like you say, players have got their eye on. We've had a few players this season who just haven't lived up to the price tag. The signing's not worked, and you wonder their minds are, well, I'll be gone in the summer. I'll be going elsewhere. I'm not that fussed.
Well, Jack's going to come on to that. You believe me.
I was just about to say, what a lovely little segue into our final guest, which is me, obviously. Final person to talk about seasonal performances. But I'll ask you very, very quickly, Jack, and I'll ask you the other two chaps as well. And I'm just talking about Leeds at the moment. Do you get out of it? Yes or no?
No, I just don't think we will. I look at the games we've got left, and we've got Newcastle, West Ham, and Spurs, and I think the Newcastle. Obviously, the problem is it's a home game. With an away game under Big Sam, you know what you're going to get. Whereas the home game leaves a bit to be desired, because obviously we need to really go out and look to win it really. And the problem is, I just see a scenario where we go out, shape up, but then Newcastle get a goal in the first 20 minutes, and then it's like, oh, what the hell do we do now? And it's just like, well, do you see it defending? But ultimately, I just don't see us getting the points. And even if we do get points, I feel like sides like Forest and Everton now will get the points to surpass what we've got anyway. So yeah, I think I've accepted it in my head. So anything else is a bonus. But yeah.
Welcome to the club. Euan, quick fire. Can you see Leeds getting out of it, or are you going to depress Jack even more?
I can't now. Having been myself, I can't see it.
Kev?
Yeah, I think they needed to get safe in April. The April fixtures were there. There were some good fixtures for him at the time. Too many changes, too many bad signings by a director of football who really should have been fired a long time ago. They're going to run out of games. Allardyce needed to come in before Gracia. If you were going to go down that road, you needed to give Allardyce time. It's just unfortunate because I got a lot of time for Leeds. I got a lot of time for Leeds fans and Leeds podcasters that I know as well. And it's just a bloody shame because such bright future, massive club, huge tradition. And it's just unfortunate the way the season has gone from some bright sparks, but in general, too many players not turning up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just quickly, like our chief exec at the start of the season put out in the statement, "There's no way we'll be in a relegation battle this season." That just comes back to, what's happened to that?
Like Joe Kinnear all over again for us.
Sounds like James Maddison about a month ago.
I know. And that's the problem. It's just a lot of like false promises, and they get really bad decision making. That's like the Anfield game was honestly probably the worst in terms of. Obviously, at the time it was great, but if we'd have lost that game, and the ball, if we'd lost that
Joe
game,
Gomez giving away goals,
yeah. But if we'd lost that game and then the Bournemouth one we didn't win, then ultimately I think Marsh would have gone, and then we have the whole sort of winter World Cup period where if we have a change of manner, change of style, could change the fortunes massively. But
would you have preferred to keep Marsh till the end of the season than have Gracia in this kind of shambles that's happened, or would you have still preferred to get rid of him? Because I know there was a lot of calls for him to leave. So is it kind of lesser of two evils keeping him?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in one sense, yeah. I think that's the problem. Is like hindsight's a wonderful thing sometimes. But under Marsh, it just wasn't good, and you were just looking at games thinking, why are we not doing better? And it's just like the form that the football really wasn't that great in terms of the football we play. Like
felt like you had a bit of grit, though. Did feel like you had a bit of grit.
Yeah, no, it was. It was very passion heavy, and it worked at times. But at the same time, tactically, we were a bit baffled because the best part of our team was our wingers, and we played really narrow football. And it was just like, well, it just doesn't compute. A lot of things like that.
Yeah, it made no sense for me watching Jesse Marsh and the squad that he assembled, or that they assembled for him, and the tactics that he used in the game was crazy to me. Then you look at the other side of it. You look at some of the signings. Aronson hasn't delivered. He falls over with a blow of wind.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
Junior Firpo can't defend. He's not a defender. It's Warburg is a good signing.
To be actually fair to Junior Firpo, he has turned up more recently than others. I think it's the whole defense. He was actually he turned up a bit more in the last few months. But I agree. A lot the signings just haven't been good enough.
Max Warburg is a good signing.
Agreed. You improved
Rutter is just like, why?
And that's the problem. You sign a player for £35 million at our point, at the way we are as a club. But we can't just have it. I think we've had a lot of focus on youth, and it's only really paid dividends a little bit. You can't be signing a player for £35 million who's a prospect. And listen, they have
the under 23s last night.
I know it is baffling. And he shows some good promise, but at the same time, £35 million, they should be straight in the first team impact. But
he's hugely rated, isn't he? But I don't feel it's fair that he's being pulled in, given 10 minutes. You either don't play him or you play him. It's one or the other. And if Bamford's not firing, I don't feel like he can do much worse.
No, and it's not on him at all. It's just that's the thing. It comes down to the old chestnut of bad management of the club. Just, no real direction, signing players for one manager and then sacking them 2 weeks later. And it's just like, you just wonder sometimes.
Right, Jack. Sorry to bring up the depressing things. We'll try and put a positive spin on it. Euan, I don't know if you remember this. Remember when we did our all-time favourite 11s podcast on the old one? Right?
Yeah.
Jack, big question. Has anybody sent anyone for a sausage this season?
Oh, yeah.
What a phrase.
Kev, you missed this. So it was on one of the old podcasts, right? Blakey comes on and he's talking. Were you talking about Rafinha?
Yeah, I think I meant to say something for a hot dog. And I just said sausage.
He was like, I sent him for a sausage. And like with me, Euan and Boyne, who just honestly, I've never heard anything like it before. It's the best piece of football terminology I've ever heard, and it's become part of my vocabulary now. Sent him for a sausage.
There you go.
But anyway, right. I don't know
why I'm laughing so much.
It's just good. It's just good.
Wholesome
content. I love it. Yeah.
Proper playground, but I love it anyway. Yeah.
It's like you go past your mate in the playground. You're like, off for a sausage, mate. Go on your way. But honestly, mate, it's incredible stuff. Right. I will start off with the best thing that happened yesterday, and this is about as good as it got, right? There's a bloke. I'm going to use this newspaper as an example, right? So just imagine this is a flag. There's a bloke in the big newsstand at Fulham, right? And we're in the away, and I was on about row I, so I was right near the front. And in the newsstand on the left-hand side, top upper tier, there's just this bloke sat there with the Bulgaria flag like this for the entire game. I'm not joking. He was just holding, and I was like, "Who's he signaling to? Like, who's he want to get that attention to?" And it was the biggest query I had all game. And there were these, like, I'm not going to use the N word, not the really bad N word, but there's three blokes.
Careful what you're saying there, Jack.
Had to get cancelled, but cancelled.
I want to kick him out in a minute.
But no, there was the three blokes sat like on like the third or fourth row back in the bottom tier, who all had like Union Jack suits on. And you could tell they were like tourists and that. And I was like, what are you doing? And the N word I was looking for was more check your hard drive N word, which...
Nonce, just so we can get the other word
the one. Yeah.
Nonce.
Right set of nonsense sat there.
That's what he was talking about.
And that was about 20 minutes. Well, I noticed that pretty early, but after about 20 minutes, I was like, why are they wearing that? And why is that bloke holding a Bulgaria flag? And that was pretty much the next 70 minutes of my life, just querying that. Because, yeah, I don't even know where to start with the game.
Did you find out?
I ain't got a clue, mate. I have not got a clue. I ended up just like chanting, "We've got the ball, we've lost the ball" for about an hour, so it was all right.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah, chanting about my best one was we had a chant, really iconic chant from when we got into the Champions League, and it's been one that we've always sang whenever we were chasing Europe, and that's a long lost dream now. But it was like on Wednesday nights under the lights, we'll be in Porto, we'll be in Bruges or Copenhagen. They will not faze us. That's what the chant was. Sunday we were singing on Wednesday nights under the lights, we'll be in Ipswich, we'll be in Hull or Queen's Park Rangers. They will not faze us, because it's just you just got to embrace it. Because I'm not being funny. They were effing diabolical yesterday. And Kev, I know you and you tried to as well put like positive spins on it, but I just can't see them. Like, and I don't even know where to start. So would anybody? I'll put the floor to you lot. Anyone want to ask me anything? Because I could go in any direction with this.
Well, I only watched the second half of yesterday's game. I missed the first half, and apparently that was the worst. But I always felt when watching Leicester this season that can't defend for toffee.
Nope.
Face is great at scoring own goals. Midfield, there's too much chopping and changing.
Can't hit the ball either. Like he missed 2 free headers yesterday. He's like it's like he jumps up and his hair just gets in his eyes. He loses flight of the ball. There's one. He went up for a free header completely unchallenged. And it went over his head. He was completely unchallenged. Nobody around him. And he jumped and it went over his head. I was like, what are you doing?
But I always felt going forward, they are as good as anyone at creating chances. They can create chances, not out of nothing, but with Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, when they're firing, James Maddison, Jamie Vardy, are all three are capable of creating chances.
Tete as well.
Tete is coming.
Tete did all right when
he doesn't look out of place in that setup. So I was talking to Gav last night. He runs LFC Day Trippers, and we both agreed. It was like going forward, they will cause problems for us, but you cannot give space to Premier League sides like Leicester give up in midfield. When Leicester were at their best, with Wilfred Ndidi, with N'Golo Kante is a different level. But with the likes of Wilfred Ndidi in midfield, that octopus type player who just snuffs out danger before it happens.
He's more like a fucking lumbering tree now, I'll tell you that much, let alone an octopus.
But this is the thing. It was always going to be the problem when Leicester stopped being that club who turned over players to reinvest and to be the stepping stone club for players, to be the N'Golo Kante, to go on to, no offense, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way or anything, but to make that big sale, Harry Maguire big sale.
But we all
Leicester stop being.
We're fine. I was always fine with that. Like I knew as soon as we stopped doing that we were playing a really dangerous game. I said that when we that summer where we signed Daka, Samare, Vestergaard, Bertrand, and Lookman on loan, and we didn't sell anyone.
Has to work.
Yeah, and if it doesn't,
that has to work.
You're in the mire.
Yeah. You are in the mire, and at the end of the day, it looks like they're two different sides now. There's no identity. There's no battling for each other. There's no heart. There's no desire. There's no structure. And Dean Smith, John Terry, and Craig Shakespeare can only do so much. Brendan Rodgers was, for whatever reason, still in a job for as long as he was. You could see the writing was on the wall for a long way out, that it just wasn't working. While they were creating chances, and James Maddison hit a run of form that papered over a lot of cracks. In the same way as with Leeds, that win at Liverpool papered over an awful lot of cracks that were there. That probably bought the club time when changes needed to be made before that. And I don't care who you're bringing in. If you're bringing in Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp as his assistant and Sir Alex Ferguson as your director of football, you're not fixing the problems that are there because the attitude isn't right.
I can't blame.
That's Dean Smith in a nutshell for me.
Yeah, I can't blame Dean Smith for anything. Like I said this, like no matter who it was who came in, I was like, do you know what? I'll back them because they've not caused this problem. They're probably not going to fix the problem long term. Their job is just to get some results and get some wins on the board. And initially he did that. Like, if we'd have won yesterday, then we'd have got 8 points from Wolves, Everton, Leeds, and Fulham. And you'd have probably said, looking at those results, that's probably a really good turnout. But you'd say maybe draw against Wolves, beat Leeds, beat Everton, draw with Fulham. You'd take that. And I'm not being funny. It was absolutely diabolical. It was probably the worst 55 minutes of football I have seen in a long, long time. It was, there's not enough words to describe how shameful it was for those players. And the Leicester fans were all chanting at halftime as they were going off, "You're not fit to wear the shirt." And do you know what? For some of those players, not all of them, for some of those players that played in that first half, that rings absolutely true. It's absolutely scandalous that some of those players are still playing week in, week out for that team. Tielemans is leaving in the summer. He's out of contract. He's had a contract offer on the table for 2 years. He hasn't taken it. Fuck him. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't care. He's not there next year. He couldn't give a shit, right? Sorry, swearing.
He was your captain for a while as well. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. That dynamic just doesn't work.
Like, who's another one? Soyuncu, he came in and he's improved things because he is whether he cares or not, he's a far superior defender to Amati, Vestergaard, whoever you want to put in there. He's far superior. Things were always going to get better. But long term, long or short, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He's leaving. He's had a contract offer on the table, rejected it. He's going. Maddison, right? Not out of contract, but he knows he's going. He doesn't care. We're gonna go down. He's gonna leave, right? All of these players who are linchpins of the team, who are playing every single week, minute after minute, and coming out with these, like, Maddison has really, really lost his head recently. He's been garbage since Smith, since Rodgers left Smith, because he was a proper Rodgers fanboy, and he's been garbage since Smith came in. The only game we've won under Smith was the game where he didn't play. Harvey Barnes, Kev, I know he does have those moments, and I can't believe I'm saying this. He scored 2 goals on Sunday, but he was fucking terrible. He genuinely, in the first half, was one of the worst players on the pitch. But I mean, probably he didn't even look like a Premier League player in the first half. Like, he just kept getting his man, squaring it up and just stopping. He couldn't take him on. His first touch was bouncing off him. He wasn't even getting anything on it. We weren't getting out and aggressive to it. Playing Tielemans and Samari in midfield as your holding pair is suicidal, because in possession, lovely. They could play these nice passes. They got a good range, like spraying passes. Out of possession, might as well not be there. It's like playing 2 45-year-olds in there, slightly overweight, because they can't move. And against Fulham, who, even though they're missing Pereira in that midfield, they've still got bags of energy. Harrison Reed is quality. Palhinha's got, he's so industrious and such a quality player. We had to match them up, and we didn't. And it was criminal that in the second half, Smith, and I know I said I wouldn't blame him. I'm blaming him for the start of the second half, not where we are now. But he made no changes to the system. We were like, we're 3-0 down. Get Suter on at the back. Go 3-5-2. Let Castagne and Christensen play further forward. Get Vardy some support up front, and we'll get back in the game. And we did get back in the game. But as I said to you off air, Kev, before we came on, it's fucking easy to start playing when you're 4-0 down. It's fucking easy because the game is done. There's no pressure on you anymore. You can start playing with a bit of freedom because everyone will go, we lost, but you know what? We came back into that game. It was unbelievable. And Christensen on the way off at half time, when we were giving him a load of stick, was sort of going to the crowd, looked really pissed off, and he was going, oh, come on. And he got pelters because we're like, well, we were first 15, 20 minutes, we were getting behind the team. The atmosphere was really good at the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of the game. As soon as they went 2-0 down, everyone was like, right, okay. And then they went 3-0 down because their application just wasn't there. Fulham will never have an easier hour than they had against us in that. And then, like I said, we get a goal. Okay, it was a decent finish by Barnes. I'll give him that. I'm not going to take that away from him. It was a good finish.
It was a brilliant finish, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, but it's easy to do that when you're 4-0 down because you don't care. It's not a clutch moment. It's not a high pressure moment because the game's done. And then to get it back to 4-1, get a penalty, fucking awful penalty again. I don't know what it is with us and penalties this season, but that was awful again from Vardy. And then
am I right in saying you missed 5 out of 6 pens?
Probably,
is
yeah.
That right?
Well, Tielemans missed 3 out of 4. Maddison missed that one on Monday night. Vardy missed that one.
Oh no, and then there was the other one. No, so it's
but do you know what was absolutely scandalous, right? And this is at the end of the game, is they all got pelters again. Like, loads of people around me were like flipping the V's and stuff. I just stood there like some of them started coming over trying to clap. I was just stood there with my arms out going like, what do you want us to do? I didn't boo them because I've never booed my team. I never will. But there's games where silence is enough. Like, I'm not going to clap them. I'm not going to boo them. I just stood there with Dean Smith when them were coming over and just held my hands up. There's loads of people around me giving it like the V's and wanker signs and whatever. I just, like, me and a load of other people just stood there with our hands up. Some people would tell them to just go away. And then Maddison comes over and he gives his shirt to someone in the front row who's obviously got a sign saying, "Can I have your shirt?" Doesn't acknowledge the crowd at all. Just ignores them, head down, aims for this kid, gives the shirt, and then goes. But on a funnier note, in the first half, sorry, I will finish after this. In the first half, there was this bloke about two rows in front of where I was in this purple jacket, and he probably ain't listening, but if he is, he needs to be called out for his fucking hypocrisy. Everyone was giving him stick because they were 3-0 down, and he was giving it the big, and he turns around and goes, "Get behind the boys, you're not helping." They're not. And I'm like, well, what is there to get behind? They're literally capitulating against a team missing their 3 best players, and it's pathetic. And then he went down at half time, didn't come back, did he? So I was like, oh, take your own advice, get behind the boys. But no, he's gone home at half time, hasn't he? Fucking idiot. But anyway, I think what I described him as on Twitter was that bastard in the purple jacket, and that's what he'll be known as from now on. So
the thing I'd say about Leicester, and this is someone who obviously takes an interest, given that me and you speak a lot, Jack, is it feels like a relationship that's been toxic for a while. It's very dysfunctional. You both know you need to rid yourselves of whatever it is that's whatever hold you've got on each other, and you need to start fresh. And I remember last summer when we were linked to Maddison, and I remember you said to me, "Oh, but you might sign a contract." But given the type of personality that Maddison's got as a reputation, now I'm not saying he's a bad lad. He actually seems like quite a nice lad. Seems like he's just one of the boys, but he's not someone who's gonna drag you out the mire. I don't think he's not quite got that personality. He's got loads of quality and class, and he's levels above.
He's a fantastic player. I'm never going to take away his ability, but
yeah,
he's another one that's just throwing the towel in. And he said that he came out in an interview after the game and said we weren't hungry enough, but then he got pelters on social media, rightfully so, because you can't come out after a performance and say we weren't hungry enough and then not expect to get criticised. And he was like, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant we weren't aggressive enough and we weren't like up for the fight." But that's the same thing.
That's worse.
But you're saying this. Yeah, he's literally saying the same thing, isn't he?
By saying worse.
And it's just not good enough. Not with 3 games to go to come into that and be that pathetic. But
the other thing that's throw a spanner in the works. Throw a spanner in the works. With Everton, nobody saw that result coming. Everton,
I think people saw Everton getting out of it though because they've got the backing.
I never did.
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't.
I never did.
But you'd have said that last season as well, though, wouldn't you? Under Lampard, let's be honest. And Dyche is a better manager than Frank Lampard.
But the teams at the bottom this year have better quality than the teams that were at the bottom last year.
Yeah. I look at Everton. I didn't think they had goals in them. I didn't think they had goals in them. Whatever about staying solid and trying to stay in games, I honestly felt that if they go to 1 down, they fall apart. And this I cannot understand how this wasn't the template yesterday for Leicester. You're going away. Fulham are a good side. They've got good players.
No denying that.
I cannot for the life of me understand why Dean Smith wouldn't go away to Fulham. You're away from home. Stack the midfield. Put 5 in there. Play 4-5-1. Stay in the game for an hour, and then go for it. Because at the end of it doesn't matter how you win. Even a draw.
Yeah, I said that. I don't care.
A draw is enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Because it stops the rot again, doesn't it? Like, yes, you've not lost again.
But like you said, you're playing a 2-man midfield against Palhinha and Reed.
Reed and Penny was in there as well.
Yeah, but I've never seen Harry Wilson have such a good game with so much room. If you give more Salah that room, see what happens.
Nunes.
Yeah, but the thing is, because it's Liverpool, you won't set up like that. No. He took liberties against Fulham because you thought on the back of 2 losses, he might be able to go and get 3 points. Whereas
against Liverpool, I guarantee you this will happen. They'll play a 4-5-1. They'll try and stay in the game for as long as possible and hit on the break. That had to be the mantra for Leicester for the last 5 games, and it wasn't.
You might get 3 points, which is better than 2 draws because you get more points out of it.
And staying in the game breeds confidence. And confidence, as I've seen with Liverpool this season, confidence with footballers is everything. It's everything. It's worth more than fitness. It's worth more than, Look
at Miguel
cohesiveness. Yeah. If you got a footballer with quality, and every player who plays in the Premier League has quality, you add confidence into that mix and belief. It's not just belief in yourself, it's belief in your mate that's next to you and belief in your mate that's behind you, that you're not going to get hung out to dry, that you will keep a clean sheet, and if you get one, you can stay in the game. That was never there. No. And that is shocking.
Yeah. But the last thing I'll say on this, because I want to just wrap up, but I've got a little game for us to play to wrap up. So let's bring a bit of positive spin, so we're not going back on a negative tone. But the last thing I want to say, Dean Smith, no. I mean, he got things wrong yesterday, granted, but again, he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be Leicester manager right now. No disrespect to Dean Smith. He shouldn't be Leicester manager. We shouldn't be in this position, really, but we are with the players that we've got, because the person whose head needs to roll, the first person that needs to be sacked when we inevitably get relegated, because it's going to happen now, and I'm pretty sure all 3 of you in your heart of hearts agree with me. As much as I know you and you've said before, you really don't want to see us go down, but in your heart of hearts, you agree.
I do now.
We're going. Right, I've accepted it. If we get out of it, it's a massive paper over the cracks job, and we'll be in the same position next season. But Dean Smith shouldn't be there. We shouldn't be where we are because of the players that we've got. But the person who needs to go is John Rudkin. If John Rudkin, our director of football, is not binned when we get relegated, then Top needs to start answering some questions as well. King Power need to have the finger directed straight at them, because John Rudkin's the one that fucked about with all these contracts and messed around with them, and put all these stupidly average players on beyond high wages so we couldn't recruit well in the summer, let all these contracts run down without selling these players. His head needs to roll. And if it doesn't, there's going to potentially be blood on the hands of the board in terms of what might happen to Leicester, because we've got a lot of loans. We've got a lot of players out of contract. We're going to have to overhaul the squad completely in the summer. And it's going to be a really, really challenging one, whether we stay up or go down. And on that really, really shiny note, I'm going to finish with a game. And I've decided to do this. I'm kind of stealing it a little bit from the Big Strong Leicester Boys podcast, because they do a little segment called Who Are You?, which is where they go through all these old Leicester players and they read off a load of stats and a load of information about them, and the guests try to guess who that person is. And I'm only going to do it. No, if you enjoy it, you can try and convince me to do it when we're on there, or we can do one for each other each week. But I'm going to introduce a new segment. Who in here used to watch Harry Hill's TV Burp?
Not me.
Nobody. Okay, Blakey sort of nodded.
I've seen it before. But...
Yeah, but it's they used to do this thing which was like the something of the week, and I'm going to introduce our new segment just to finish it off. Whenever we have guests on, unless you particularly enjoys it, then we'll make it a regular thing. But this is Obscure Footballer of the Week, and they've all played in the Premier League. I'm not going to pick someone who's played like 5 games. It's going to be someone that's played a lot of games. Okay, and the first Obscure Footballer of the Week, I'm going to give you some clues, and you have to guess who it is. First person to guess the correct player wins.
Do we get one go each? Is it like we go around?
No, you can guess as many times as you want until someone gets it.
Right, okay.
But I'm going to give you clues, and the clues are going to get progressively easier.
Okay.
Okay? Everyone understand? Everyone on board?
All good.
Excellent. Right. This player was born on the 22nd of April, 1979.
Okay.
Any guesses?
Can we just guess away?
Yeah, you just guess whoever you want. But okay. They played, this is career appearances, not in the Premier League. They played 526 games, scoring 91 goals. They played a lot of games in the Premier League, played over 200 games in the Premier League, but it was 526 career games, scoring 91 goals.
Carlton Cole.
No.
I'm going for a midfielder. But go on.
Okay. They made their debut in 1997 for a club called Petch.
I don't.
Nobody googling on your computer.
No, genuinely.
No.
Right. They moved to England in 2004.
So he would have been 24 when he moved to England.
No guesses so far.
I'm gonna go. It's not him, but someone like Matthias Kesman.
No, not Matthias Kesman.
Scored more goals than that.
Right, I'm going to run off some honours. They won the UEFA Euro 2016 fan goal of the tournament.
2016.
They won the Football League Championship. So they won the championship in 2007-08. And they were a runner-up in the Europa League in 2009-10.
So it's...
all whilst playing in England.
Oh, God.
I'm trying to think who won the league in that year and then got the move.
I think it's Fulham. Or 9-10, I think it's Fulham. That was Roy Hodgson's side that got to the final. I was
renowned for scoring worldies.
Pedro Mendes. He was
Zoltan Gira.
Blakey wins.
What a man!
Winner for Blakey. It was Zoltan Gira.
What a shout! Done. What a shout!
Very good.
I
associate him with West Brom, so I wouldn't have got there.
Well, he joined. He played for Petch from, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's P-E with a little apostrophe C-S, and it's in Hungary, so I assume it's pronounced like Petch. Could be wrong. Sorry if there's any Hungarians listening. Don't think
that was why we didn't get.
But if there is, put it in the comment section below as to what the correct pronunciation is.
Yes, please. 71 appearances, 14 goals for them. Then moved to Ferencváros, 115 games, 32 goals before moving to West Brom in his first stint until 2008, before joining Fulham until 2011. Moving back to West Brom and then rejoining Ferencváros in 2014, retiring in 2018.
Decent player. Good attacking midfielder. He was always one of those ones who could link up with a striker. He was playing as a second striker at number 10, something like that. He had a bang on him, and he was decent enough in the air as well. So he was a decent player.
Yeah, but
good question. That enjoyed that.
Yeah, so
I want more of them, Jack. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
well, it's going to be embarrassing when it's just me and I don't get it.
Yeah.
And
well, no, I was thinking, when it's just us two on there, we'll do we'll take it in turns. But so you do 1 week, I do one, and then but when we have guests on, we'll do more. So Blakey is the winner of the inaugural Obscure Footballer.
Well done, Blakey.
Congratulations, Jack. Well done.
Congratulations.
At least Leeds got some honours this season.
But right, we'll finish up there. So really good chat again, guys. Thank you so much for coming on, Jack. Hopefully, I mean, I've accepted we're going down, so you can have a pop at Everton and Forest if you want to. But thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to listen to your amazing insights about football?
Oh, they can go on my Twitter if they want to. The occasional rant from me. That's at JEBlakey3. But yeah.
Excellent. And Kev, thank you very much for joining us for the first time. I'm actually going to be on the show with Kev on Friday night. But Kev, where can everyone find you?
Usually on Friday nights at LFC Dave Trippers. Some other nights as well, but we do content pretty much 7 nights a week, 10 p.m. Always something live. So if anyone's listening, get involved in the chat. Just come along, get involved in the chat. The chat is really knowledgeable and nice for a bit of banter. But yeah, look, I love coming on. I'd love to come on again. Thanks very much for having me, Jack.
I can't wait to come on Friday and listen to you all tell me how when we do the score predictions and everyone's going to be like, you guys will be like, it'll be like 2-0, 2-1. I'll be like 5-0, take it. Euan, thank you very much again for joining me. We are going to be back next week. We've got a little bit of a collaboration podcast going on next week. We're joined by the guys at Corridor of Uncertainty. So we're going to be joined by Ben and Luke. And if you haven't checked them out, please go and check them out because they do some really, really good stuff, regular content all the time. Nice lads as well. And I'm going to chew the boys out a little bit out next week because I've made a shirt bet with one of them. And when we look back at it from the start of the season, one of us has had an absolute mare, but you will have to check in next week to see who that was. Thank you very much, guys, for coming on. Really enjoyed it as always. Please like, share, and subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. All the stuff you can to get us out there because me and Euan are buzzing to be back again, putting this content out for you. So thank you very much, and chaps, enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy the City Real Madrid game if you get a chance to catch it.
Cheers, Jack. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.